my screen there. And well, if you didn't know that we were in Advent, hopefully this will give you a clue. So you're very welcome to this week's Imagine. And today I'm going to be guiding us through an Advent examen, an examen using the imagination. So maybe you've come across the examen already as a way of praying before. Maybe you're already experts at it, very familiar with it. Or it might be completely new, which is completely fine. But anyway, today we're going to have a go at an Advent examen using our imagination. So in our small groups already, we've just been sharing some of our thoughts, some of our feelings about Advent and what that looks like to us this year after the year that we've had. Maybe like me, you have mixed feelings about entering Advent this year. And we might even say that Advent is a mixed time of year at the best of times, a time when we hold in tension various things like light and darkness, old and new life. We celebrated the end of one year in the church's calendar and the start of another one. And maybe there's something of a looking back, which we hold in tension with a looking forward and anticipation around this time. And maybe Advent has something in it, something of a tendency to be a bit retrospective, maybe even nostalgic as a time of year when we naturally find ourselves looking back on the past. And of course, we're all very aware of coming to the end of a long and really unprecedented pandemic year. Most of us probably feel that we're due a refund on 2020. Maybe we'd rather not look back on some of it with good reason. But at the same time, in Advent, we're encouraged to look forward to the promised coming of Jesus Christ at Christmas. And we're all looking forward to a very different Christmas this year. Some of us might be looking forward to an uncertain or anxious future. What does looking forward look like, feel like to us this year? So maybe holding some of those thoughts, some of those tensions, maybe now is a good time to try an Advent examen, a prayer, a meditation of looking back. So we're going to be using our imaginations today. We're going to look back with God over the past strange and difficult year in the light of God's loving presence with us and God's loving presence with us in our world, so that hopefully we can look forward with a renewed sense of God with us in the days and weeks ahead. So our imaginations all work differently. Some people maybe find it easier to visualize. Others smell, touch, hear more easily, or maybe just get a sense of things, an impression. And the way that we normally remember things is likely to be the way that we imagine naturally. So the advice would be just allow this meditation to unfold as it does for you, without forcing anything and without getting stressed about the level of detail. Okay. So as we begin our meditation, the encouragement would be perhaps to close your eyes, or if you want to focus your gaze on the Advent wreath on the screen. And we're just going to have a time of stilling at the start of our meditation. So, in the space where you are now, just take a moment or two to check in with yourself. How are you How are you emotionally, spiritually, in your body? And you might want to take a minute or two just to stretch, to relax, to get comfortable where you are. And notice if there's any tension in your body, and maybe just locate that and try and relax as best you can. And just allow yourself to be where you are, as you are. Come home to yourself now. And maybe get in touch with the sounds that you can hear. And just acknowledging those, naming them, and letting them be there. And notice the rhythm of your own breathing without trying to change it. Just notice your inward breath and your outward breath and what that does to your body. And maybe take 2 or 3 deeper breaths in and out. And just be as you are now. And become aware of being in the presence of the God who loves you, who embraces you just as you are. And for the next moment or two, just let your God have a good look at you. Let God be with you in any way that God wants right now. And what do you need from this time, from this meditation? What do you most want to ask God for right now? And just notice what comes and let God know. And maybe ask God to take the lead with this time, with this meditation. Hand it over. And to let God use your imagination, however that works for you, to show you what would be good to see as you look back together over this past year. And so I invite you to imagine yourself now alone in a place where you feel at home, where you feel safe and comfortable. That might be a real place, somewhere familiar or significant to you from the past or the present, or it might just be a place now that just comes to mind. So don't overthink it, just see what comes to mind. And when you have a place, just go there in your imagination. So where do you find yourself? And take time to arrive in your place. Maybe with the eyes of your imagination, take some time now just to look around you and explore your environment. What do you see above you? And what do you see in front of you? And turning around behind you. And notice any features, objects, shapes, colours. Where are you standing? What do you see at your feet? And in the place where you find yourself, what are you wearing in your imagination? Can you feel the feel of your clothes? Where they touch your skin? Their weight, texture, colour? And what's the temperature like where you are? What does your skin feel? Is there a breeze or is the air still? What is the ground like beneath your feet? Maybe walk around a bit, explore. Feel the ground under your feet. And what's it like where you are? Are there any surfaces, things you want to touch? What are the sounds of your place? Its smells. And if at any point you find yourself distracted, don't worry, just acknowledge whatever it is that's distracting you and gently let go and just return to your imagined place. So where you find yourself, if you can, find somewhere comfortable to sit now, where you are. And take in the atmosphere where you are. And at a certain point, you notice a companion joining you. Jesus enters the place where you are now. Maybe if it feels natural, invite him to join you. Let him come and be beside you. And how does he greet you? How does he seem? And don't worry if you can't picture Jesus very clearly. That's very normal. But you might just have a sense, a presence. And as Jesus sits down or stands beside you where you are, you notice that he's holding something. In his hands, Jesus is holding a large book. It's a scrapbook, which he shows you. And inside the scrapbook are your memories, your experiences of the past year, with all its ups and downs, joys and sorrows. And what's that scrapbook like for you? How does it appear in your imagination? What material is it made of? What's on its cover? And how does it feel to touch it, smell it? And notice in yourself, what's it like to be shown this book by Jesus? This scrapbook of your last year. And as Jesus opens the scrapbook to show you its contents, he invites you to look at the first double page entitled Advent 2019. In it, he has collected the significant mementos, if you like, of your life and experiences from this time last year. Some objects pasted in, maybe, snapshots and photographs, significant words, pictures, images, people, places. And as you look at those pages, what fills them in your imagination? From this time last year. And don't worry about visualizing details. Just notice what comes to mind. Take time to let your eye travel over the pages. Maybe let your hand explore. Or just notice what memories come. As Jesus now gently turns over the page, together you look at the double pages covering Christmas last year and the new year. And what features in your scrapbook from this time? Any images, objects, words, memories, something else? And notice what strikes you, what comes to mind. Where and how were you as you began this year, 2020, back in January? What mementos has Jesus gathered from your first weeks of the year? And as you look at your scrapbook together with Jesus, notice what captures your attention and his. And allow Jesus now to share with you the pages for February and March this year, and all that unfolded then for you. What's in your scrapbook from this time? while news of the pandemic started to spread and the impacts of a new word, COVID-19, started to be felt in a myriad of ways in our lives. What has Jesus gathered from this time in his scrapbook? What does he want you to see, to be in touch with now? And as you turn the pages with him and look now into Lent and Easter from this year, March and April, what do you notice? Maybe for some of us, we were experiencing signs of a beautiful spring, sounds of birdsong all the louder for the lockdown that many of us were experiencing. What do your pages hold from this time? And ask Jesus to show you and to see with his eyes of love and concern. And again, don't worry if at any point you find yourself distracted or unable to focus, or just pray from where you are now and let what will come to mind. And Jesus now opens the pages of your scrapbook that deal with the late spring and the beginning of summer. Where and how were you during these months of the year? Maybe for some of us, restrictions were relaxing for a time. Maybe some of us were still shielding at home or working hard. And what populates your scrapbook pages from these months? The summertime. And what comes to you now? And turning over the page, August has now turned to September. And what does Jesus want to show you from this time? Your experiences. and what goes on for you as you look together. And as summer turns slowly to autumn or fall for some of us, the pages are opened for October and the last month, November, and all that's happened for you then. Perhaps a tightening of restrictions as the virus spread for many. Perhaps news of hope on the horizon with the announcement of the COVID vaccines. And what else for you? What does your scrapbook hold? And look at it with Jesus. So, as you look back over this last year, a year like no other, as you look back through your scrapbook, what now do you find yourself most grateful for? Maybe ask God, ask Jesus to bring that to mind. What is worth savouring? And as you look back together, what do you find yourself least grateful for? And without judging it, let it be there. Look at what comes to mind with your companion, with God, Jesus, beside you. As you look back together over this past year, where were you most aware of God's presence with you? What comes to mind now? Where were you least aware? And look at that with Jesus. And still holding your scrapbook, sitting together, ask Jesus now to show you his favourite moment, his most significant moment from your scrapbook from this year. What's the one thing that he wants you to remember or to hold on to from this year? Notice what comes. And now Jesus turns the book to its final pages, and they're headed Advent 2020. They're blank pages, mostly, yet to be filled. How do you feel now as you look at them with him? Do any hopes or desires surface for you? What would you like to be there? Maybe what is the one thing that you need now as you look forward with Jesus, with God, into the rest of Advent and Christmas and beyond? And so, however you find yourself now at the end of this time, however the meditation seems to have gone or not gone for you, just take some time now to talk to or be with Jesus, talk to or be with God as a close friend is with another. And there might be words, there may not be a need for words. And as you come now to the end of this time together and prepare to leave your imagined place, how do you and Jesus take leave of one another? Is there anything left unsaid? Anything you or he want to do? And when you're both ready, when you're ready, gently bring your prayer to a close and return to the here and now. taking your time. And in a minute, whenever you're ready, we're just going to rejoin the main meeting. The invitation is to turn your camera back on